Alright, so this is prisoner's dilemma. It is like one of the most important concepts in game theory. So, what does prisoner's dilemma do? Prisoner's dilemma shows you how two rational decision makers. Okay, so two rational decision makers are basically are players in the game. They are rational decision makers and they only care about themselves. Now, this would have been you, but you are not a rational decision maker. So, so they are two rational decision makers and they only care about themselves and they can end up making choices that are bad for the both of them. Again, you, but you are not rational decision makers. So it teaches how cooperation can be difficult even when it benefits everyone. Again, yeah, you know what I'm gonna say. So बेसिकली यहाँ पे क्या बोल रहा है हम लोग को ये बोल रहा है कि हमारे पास दो ऐसे लोग हैं जो रैशनल है फर्स्ट ऑफ ऑल second of all they only think about themselves third that they can end up making choices that are not good for them and they teach you how cooperation can be difficult ठीक है that is why prisoner's dilemma is kind of so important in the real world scenario. Okay, like if you want to think about why that is so, these four are the main reasons as to why it reflects the current world scenario so much, and why game theory as a subject is so significant in like economics or like yeah understanding economics. That's it. So basically, नाउ ये सब पेपर में मत लिखना ऑब्वियसली लाइक पेपर में यहाँ पे जो लिखा हुआ है वो लिखना है. इट इज अ फंडामेंटल कॉन्सेप्ट इन गेम थियोरी दैट illustrates how rational decision making by individuals can lead to collectively inefficient outcomes. ठीक है, that is basically a more technical way to write what I said. Okay, so how do you define prisoner's dilemma? Okay, how to define prisoner's dilemma is basically कि एक गेम है दो players के साथ में and each must choose either to cooperate or defect without knowing what the other will choose. Okay, जो result है वो दोनों के decision पे depend करता है. Okay, and even though cooperating helps both of them, defecting seems safer for each individual. जिसके वजह से ये dilemma, ये जो problem है वो बन रही है. Now this defect and cooperate that we are talking about, what is it based on? So basically, are two players who are apparently very rational and only think about themselves. What the thing about them is that they are caught while मेकिंग अ रॉबरी. दे आर कॉट. तो अब इन दोनों को डिफरेंट इंटरोगेशन रूम्स में हमने बिठाया है. सो व्हाट हैपेंस इज कि नाउ इन दोनों को इंटरोगेट किया जा रहा है एंड दे आर टोल्ड कि इफ यू डोंट if you cooperate, that is if you stay silent, if you stay silent, then in the case that the other person he is going to confess, then you will be punished. Okay, then you will be punished. And in case you speak up and the other person does not speak up, they will be punished. ठीक है, तो अगर तुम confess कर रहे हो तो तुम छोड़े जाओगे. But that is only under the case if the other person stays silent. ठीक है, you will only be freed if the other person stays silent. If you both confess तो तुम लोग को थोड़ी ज़्यादा सज़ा मिलेगी. You will not be let off. ठीक है, तुम लोग को you will be probably like over here, like if you both confess you're gonna get 5 years each. ठीक है, तो तुम लोग को that is definitely a lot more than what you will get if you confess and the other person stays silent. तो as soon as you confess, ठीक है, तो another person keeps silent. ठीक है, उसने लेट कन्फेस करने का सोचा एंड उसके पहले ही दे फिनिश द इंटरोगेशन. You will be at benefit here. But in the case yeah, that you both stay silent, that is best for both of you. ठीक है? Oh, in this scenario, it is best for both of you that you both stay silent and you do your 1 year in jail and then you let go. But will you do that? ठीक है? The question is, will you do that? And the only thing that stops us from doing that is the trust in the other person. Okay, the trust in your partner, in the robber that was involved with you. So तुम कितना trust करते हो, it depends on that. ठीक है? So basically, if you both stay silent, you don't know that the person is staying silent or not. As far as you know, you will think that the other person is going to confess. So you will also want to confess. ठीक है? You will want to उल्टा confess before him so that तुमको छोड़ दिया जाए उसको पकड़ लिया जाए. राइट. सो दिस इज इवन दो दोनों के कॉपरेट करके साइलेंट रहने पे तुम दोनों का बेनिफिट हो रहा है. You will have doubt over the person and it will make you go to decisions that are not exactly beneficial for the either of you. That is the entire base of prisoner's dilemma. and the amount of weight it holds in understanding world trade relations and their benefit in world economics. This is the entire basis of why it is so important. Okay, and why this dilemma is exactly formed. So that is basically the definition. Okay, so here everything that I explained, the classic scenario that two suspects are arrested, they are getting interrogated separately and cannot communicate. They either stay silent or they confess. The final jail terms, the terms that will be given to them, it depends on the combination of their decisions. Okay, this forms the basis of the dilemma. Okay, so this is the payoff matrix का representation. You don't have to write the year in your payoff matrix. Just write the numbers and that's enough. Okay, values represent years. Yeah, so you necessarily don't have to write -1. You can write 3. That will be better. So the minus is actually not a minus. Wait, the minus is not actually a minus. It is just 1 year, 10 years. Yeah. So don't take it as a minus. Interpretation of payoffs. Okay. So this is basically this an explanation of whatever this was. Both cooperate. They get 1 year. One defects and the other gets free. 10 years मिलता है. Both defect दोनों को 5 years मिलता है. If दोनों ने confess कर दिया तो. Okay. Now what is a dominant strategy? What is a dominant strategy means that one option is always better for a player no matter what the other does. Okay, this is kind of also how equilibrium is defined. But yeah, getting into it, currently getting into dominant strategy right now. A dominant strategy means that only one option, the or not only one, the one option that is always better for a player, irrespective कि सामने वाला क्या करता है, मेरी भलाई किसमें है, उसको बोलते हैं that will be my dominant strategy. Okay, so basically defection is dominant. Okay, in this scenario, to defect, okay, instead of cooperate, defecting is better because if the other cooperates, defecting will give freedom. Okay, if the other defects, defecting will give a smaller punishment. Okay, that is what is like other I defect. Okay, my dominant strategy is to defect. So if the सामने वाला chooses to cooperate, defecting will give me freedom. If the सामने वाला also defects, then defecting will give me also defecting will give a smaller punishment. So over here, dominant strategy. That means the rational player should choose to defect. Okay. Now, what is a Nash equilibrium? A Nash equilibrium is basically both players choose to defect. Like we said, dominant strategy क्या थी? Dominant strategy थी, मेरी dominant strategy थी that I will defect. ठीक है, हम लोग ने ये भी समझा कि defect करने पे how am I getting benefit? How am I getting benefited irrespective of whatever the other player chooses to do? Now over here, Nash equilibrium means that ऐसा एक move जो कॉम्बिनेशन ऑफ दोनों डिसीजंस को मिला के लीस्ट लॉस दे रहा है दोनों को एंड मैक्सिमम पे ऑफ दे रहा है. ओके, कंसिडरिंग एक मिनिमम लॉस एंड मैक्सिमम पे ऑफ. ठीक है, फॉर बोथ द प्लेयर्स बाय द कॉम्बिनेशन ऑफ बोथ आवर डिसीजंस. इससे बनता है Nash equilibrium. तो वही होता है Nash equilibrium will be that both players defect. हम दोनों को defect करना पड़ेगा. Over here, what happens if both of us defect? No one can do better by changing their choice alone. ठीक है, अगर दोनों ने डिफेक्ट किया, मैंने अपना चॉइस बदला तो क्या होगा? मैंने अपना चॉइस बदला, मैंने कोऑपरेट किया एंड द अदर पर्सन डिफेक्ट्स, तभी क्या होगा? डिफेक्टिंग विल गिव फ्रीडम. ओके, सिमिलरली इफ यू स्विच द सिचुएशन and I defect and they cooperate, defecting will give me freedom, right? If the so basically over here, what is happening कि जो भी तुम चूज करोगे, both defecting turns out to be the better option in terms of years that we have to spend in prison. ठीक है, but if like what is happening in case if both what like over here, like if we look over here, what is the best actual outcome? The best actual outcome is that the both of them stay silent. ठीक है, but what is happening that the equilibrium that we have, the equilibrium of both of them defecting is a stable outcome. Okay, it is not the best outcome. Obviously you can see कि 1 year comma 1 year is the best outcome, so it is a stable one. There's no equilibrium formed here. This equilibrium is not the best outcome. right? It is not like the term used over here is that it's not Pareto optimal, that we have not studied, we've not gotten on to that. And if you don't know what that is, that's completely fine. You can just say it is not Pareto optional, or that it is not the best outcome. Okay, both would have achieved a collective outcome by cooperating, right? Since compared to one of them confessing, uh, or one of them defecting or one of them cooperating, it is better that both defect. Okay, compared to those options, what is better? Compared to those options, it is better कि both of them defect, but it fails in front of one condition, and that is both of them stay silent. ठीक है? So basically, defecting comma defecting is the most stable one. Okay, it is not the best one, it is the most stable one. So real world example will be a business competition, price wars, whatever you might want to write, where like example where prisoner's dilemma is reflected. Over here it is that consider two competing firms deciding whether to engage in price wars or maintain their own stable prices. So, अगर both maintain prices, that is cooperate, they will earn steady profits. But if one cuts prices and gains more customers, the other one will suffer. If both cut prices, ये देख के दूसरे वाले ने भी जो सफर कर रहा है उसने भी अपने prices काट दिए, profits दोनों के लिए ही गिर जाएंगे. Thus, the mutual cooperation will benefit them both, right? But the fear of exploitation comes in. That is where entire game theory ka funda starts. That one will cut prices, the fear that the other will cut prices, they will gain more customers, right? And I will suffer. But if I also end up doing that, if I also end up cutting my prices, right? Both of the हम दोनों के लिए profits गिरने लगेंगे. So mutual cooperation matters here, that we both maintain our prices, but the fear of exploitation will leads to defection, like we saw in Prisoner's Dilemma. Then there's also one more example, that is environmental policy, and then significances and lessons. Basically, I concluding line that you can write. Okay, so all in all, dilemma में क्या हो रहा है that you are gonna do what is safe for yourself, but it will lead safe for yourself, but it will lead to a bad outcome for both, right? When I defect, the other person also defect, right? We both get 5 years, right? Trusting each other leads to a better outcome, but trust is risky, right? Like over here we said 1 year comma 1 year. Okay, that is the best outcome, but it is risky, right? So we both choose to defect. It is the most stable one, but not the best one, like we said. And then we accordingly give examples of environmental policy and business competition. That was here, either one that you want to write, and then you can just write a concluding thing that it demonstrates why cooperation is hard to sustain, and it is possible in repeated games and all that, and that becomes your prisoner's dilemma.